Are you looking for the top banks that are going to be pulling your credit through Transunion credit report? In this video, I'm going to be covering the top banks and credit unions that are going to be pulling your credit via Transunion. So make sure to watch this entire 3-part series where I am covering some of the top banks and credit unions that you can use if you have a clean TransUnion credit report, or if you build your relationship up the right way with some of these banks and credit unions. You don't even need to have a perfect credit score. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Credit Coach Nicole Scott. If you are new here, do me a huge favor. Make sure you have subscribed to the channel. Give me a huge thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below if you are new here. I appreciate you so much. So if you are looking for more information like this, comment the word kit and I will send you over my free credit kit. It has a ton of information on personal credit, business credit, credit stacking, and it even has a list of what banks pull from what credit bureau. So you can have that, study it. There's also an Elon Financial tip. And for those of you that are familiar with Elon Financial, we're going to be going over some Elon Financial banks in this 3-part series video. But Elon Financial is a company that provides underwriting to smaller banks and credit unions to provide them with credit card products. And some banks might only use Elon for the business credit side. Some might use it for the personal. Needless to say, Elon is a TransUnion type of institution. So if this bank or financial institution or credit union is using Elon Financial to underwrite their credit cards, your credit is going to be pulled via TransUnion. And this list right here is actually going to give you a ton of different Elon Financial banks. Now, like I said before, doesn't mean they're going to pull from both personal and business, because they have different products that they offer. So do your research, but you can always tell what an Elon Financial credit application looks like. And we're going to be showing some examples in this video. But here is a credit pro tip. If you don't listen to anything else in this video, please pay attention to this. Now, since we are focused on TransUnion and TransUnion only, the first thing that we want to do before we do some credit stacking is freeze our other credit reports. We don't want these banks trying to be sneaky and look at TransUnion and Experian, or look at TransUnion and Equifax. So what we want to do is we want to simply lock or freeze our Experian credit report. You can do that right inside of the Experian app, and same thing with Equifax. You can do that right inside of the app while you are applying for these TransUnion only banks. And a couple of these banks, we're going to talk about how you can even get approved without a hard credit pull. So stay tuned for that. Now, first up, we're going to have Apple Federal Credit Union. Now, they are a wonderful bank. They are a little challenging to join these days. You used to be able to join an outside organization or membership and get access to be a member with Apple Federal Credit Union. Well, they have since changed that. So now it can be a little bit more challenging to join Apple Federal. But if you can get in, great, because they are a wonderful bank that uses TransUnion. They're known for giving out high limits. They are also a relationship-based bank. So they have both personal and business credit products. If you start building up your relationship the right way, you can certainly get high limits approved. I had a client do the same thing, was able to get a $35,000 personal credit card with Apple Federal Credit Union. And if you are inside of the credit community, which is my credit community where I teach you all of this plus more, I have their rate sheet in there, and you want to apply the same concept as I tell you guys with building relationships with banks. Focus on 5 banking products, okay? Now, what is a banking product? Checking account, savings account, a CD account, overdraft protection, any sort of bank product. Banks love CD accounts, okay? And some banks have a minimum, which might be kind of high for some of those that, some minimums might be $1,000 or so. But the great thing about Apple is their minimum CD is only $50. So that is a huge opportunity for you to still be able to grow multiple banking products with this bank by not having to invest a ton of money into them. You don't have to have direct deposit with them, but of course, if you have direct deposit with any financial institution out there, it's always going to help, okay? But I will say this, I've had many banks where I did not have any direct deposit and very minimal, deposits going into those accounts, and I was still approved because my personal credit profile is solid. So, and you can see here, they pretty much have any type of credit product that you would need, whether it's a credit card, auto loan, personal loan, you name it, they will provide it. Now, the one thing that I really love about Apple Federal Credit Union is, like I said, they give out high limits. So here's some examples for you. Now, they have different credit cards and you can actually go to their website and do some comparison, but the signature rewards card, and remember, anything with the word signature in it, that's what you want to go after, because signature always means a higher value, right? Usually signature cards are $20K plus in approvals as long as your relationship is solid and your credit profile is decent, right? There's no signs of, financial risk recently. There's also the Visa Platinum and there's the Educator card. And check this out. The signature rewards card goes up to $50,000. The Visa Platinum, $35,000. The Educator card, $35,000. So what we want to go after is that signature rewards card because it goes up to $50K, and that is big boy limits, guys. That's how you add those comparable credit limits onto your personal credit, and then you can piggyback off of that with your business credit. You're just creating those comparable credit trade lines. You're not going to use them and abuse them. You're going to treat them, greet them, and make sure that you keep them, okay? We're not going to run off on the plug, guys. We want to make sure that we grow and treat these credit trade lines so we can maximize our credit and do the long-term thing. Long-term success is going to be the best. They do have a credit builder card as well. They do have a student card. Their My Rewards card goes up to a $5,000 limit. So they have some great credit builder accounts that can help you start and establish your credit as well. You can also check out some of their personal loan products. You'll notice here that they do have the savings secured loan product. That is a great option to help you build credit, similar to the pledge loan that Navy Federal offers. Same concept, but you can see here that they have the savings secured certificate and they also have the savings secured regular savings account. They have the signature line of credit, the first responder line of credit, the educator line of credit, and of course their simple signature loan. But they have a ton of credit products. They also have really good rates on their auto loans. So definitely check out Apple Federal Credit Union, especially if you are able to get in with them as a member. Now, what I would do is if you are interested in joining Apple Federal Credit Union, you want to head over to their website, 𝒓𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒕 and you want to come on over and join now. And it's going to take you to the application process and their qualifications for you to join their credit union. And sometimes it can be a little challenging getting into these credit unions, but that's why they have so many added benefits once you do get in, and kind of try to find a creative way on getting in, because there's a few different ways. Like I said, you used to be able to join an outside organization, but unfortunately last time I checked, that was not an option to join. So take action, see if you can get in there, because it's going to be well worth it. Now, next up on our Transunion is another credit union. This is actually the #1 credit union in the United States right now, and I do a ton of videos about Navy Federal. In fact, I am extremely tired of talking about Navy Federal, and I'm sure they are tired of me talking about them as well. But Navy Federal is one of my favorite credit unions out there. And in fact, they are the #1 credit union in the United States at this time. You do not have to be military to join them. Comment the word guide. I'll send you my Navy Federal guide so you can learn how to join and some of the amazing credit products that they also have. Again, they have personal and business. You do have to be a member with all credit unions in order to apply for their credit products. So if you see a credit union, you have to be a member, versus places like Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, you certainly do not have to have a bank account or any sort of relationship with them to apply for credit products. So that's kind of the difference with the credit unions. Now, if you did want a business bank account, you would have to be a personal member. The great thing about the personal membership is they have several different credit cards that are well worth it and can get you started pretty soon, even if you have bad credit. I have a credit community member that has less than perfect credit, very, low, I would say low credit score, not even a 600 credit score. And they were approved for a $15,000 credit card because they took action, they built up the relationship with Navy Federal, and they focused on the relationship because Navy Federal has what's called an internal scoring system. So they, have a different system that they score you on based on your internal, activities, how many banking products you have. And again, same concept, 5 or more banking products. That's your goal. Checking account, savings account. You can do a secured loan, which is their pledge loan. You can do the overdraft protection. Here's one thing that you want to note for all banks, especially Navy Federal. You don't ever want to get an overdraft with them. Okay. That is the most damaging thing that you can do, especially for your internal score with them. Okay. So don't get an overdraft. It could also lead to you getting denied for a pledge loan with them. So it's going to cause all type of problems long-term with them. And it takes a while to recover from that. So avoid that. Set up the overdraft protection program. Have a little money in your savings account. So if you do overdraft, it'll take the money from the savings and it won't count against you. Okay. Now with them, they have multiple credit cards that you can get. I always recommend starting off with the Green Cash Rewards card, and then you can go over to the Signature card. This Green Cash Rewards card is usually about a $20K approval. This is exactly what my client went after once he finished building the relationship with them for a little over 3 months. He joined, he focused on the relationship, and then after about 3 months, he went in for the application with less than perfect credit and still was approved for $15,000. Now, if you are approved for the secured credit card, you can take it if you want it. Their secured credit card will go up to a $5,000 limit, but of course that's secured by your funds. And I would recommend passing on the secured card. I would focus your time on doing the secured loan, the pledge loan, focus on your relationship with Navy Federal, and then you can go after a credit card later on when you might qualify. You might need to add a couple high limit trade lines. We do have trade lines if you are interested in boosting your credit score and getting those higher limits, higher comparable credit limits. So that way it'll help you get higher limits. Now they have other cards as well. One of my favorite is going to be the flagship card. This is a signature card. So again, we're always going to look for that word signature because we know it's going to be those big boy limits that we all want. All right. Now this card goes up to a $80,000 credit approval, and Navy Federal will approve you for up to $80,000 for unsecured credit lines with them. So you'll max out at $80K. How you spread that $80K out is up to you. You can get up to 3 credit cards with them and max out at $80K. So for example, me, I have 3 cards, but had I known this sooner, I probably would have only gotten 2 and put those 2 cards up to $40K to add 2 high limit comparable credit lines, or maybe even like a $60K and like a $20K, and I can still do that over time, but I'm not going to mess with perfection because I've already maxed out. All right. So you've got the Go Rewards card, and then of course their secured card, which is the In Rewards card. I would try to avoid the In Rewards card because even though it does graduate, it doesn't take, it takes a long time for it to graduate. I've had people that have had this card for over a year and still haven't graduated and have actually applied for other cards and got approved. So that's why I would say, focus on your relationship, do a pledge loan. If the only thing that you do qualify for is the In Rewards card, I would probably just pass on that until you can qualify for an unsecured credit card with them. Just take your time, build the relationship. Don't apply for anything. You don't want to seem too thirsty to the banks. Allow time to age. 3 to 6 months is ideal, but a minimum of 3 billing cycles. So that's going to be over 90 days, okay? Because some billing cycles are 30 days, some are 31, some are 28, it's depending on the month, of course, right? So allow 3 billing cycles to pass, and you can request credit line increases once you do get the card every 3 months or so, every 3 billing cycles or so. Sometimes I would let a little bit more time pass, but you can certainly ask for a credit limit increase right through the app. It's not going to cost you a hard pull as long as you are doing it through the app. Now, fun fact here, Navy Federal used to be an Equifax bank. So again, sometimes they like to throw in, Experian or Equifax. So if you don't want them looking at those other bureaus, make sure that you have frozen them so that way they can't see them. But all in all, Navy Federal is a great bank to start with. They have a lot of great products. And here is another credit pro tip. So if you decide that you wanted to go with the secured savings loan, aka the pledge loan, which I highly recommend for as much as possible for a minimum of 24 months. Set it up for longer, but of course, keep it open for a minimum of 24 months. You can actually add a co-borrower to your secured pledge loan. Yes, a co-borrower. So that means you can add a family member, a friend, a child who's at least 18, a spouse, whomever that you are helping build their credit up with them, right? And I had one person that booked a call with me and they were wondering like, hey, my dad has a bunch of money. He wants to do a pledge loan. Can he just put the money in my account? I'm like, look, that's super messy. You want to just have your dad do the secured pledge loan directly with Navy Federal. You just have that money in your savings account, call them up over the phone, say, hey, I want to do a pledge loan and I want to add my son as my co-borrower. You guys are both going to be on that primary trade line, primary credit trade line. It's going to report to both of your credit reports, all 3 of them, and it's going to help you guys both build credit. You don't want to close it too soon. That's a mistake I see a lot of people do because you're not going to get the history, and history is 15% of our credit score. So a lot of people will get it and they're like, oh, I want to pay it off, and they'll pay it off in like 2-3 months, 5 months, something, too short of a time frame. Right? So instead, what you want to do is this. You want to open it up, okay, for as much as possible. So if you can do 10K, do 10K, but do as much of the available funds that you could possibly do. Okay, if you're getting your tax returns, do the whole amount because you're still going to have access to it in your banking account. It's just going to be in your checking account and then you'll just pay that back. So it's like putting your cash on your credit report and kind of recycling those funds, right? Then you want to kind of let that sit and simmer for about 30 to 60 days. That way you're going to give it enough time to report to the credit bureaus, allow that balance to report, right? And then in about 2 billing cycles, you can pay the balance down about 80%. So that way you only have about 20% of the loan remaining. And you can even pay, a few dollars a month. You can set up like an auto pay to where you're making a few dollar payment every month just to keep that open and get those on-time payments reported to your credit. So that way you can have another credit trade line on your credit report that's a primary trade line that shows a 100% positive payment history for yourself and if you wanted to add another person. So that's a hack. It's up to you to take action, but Navy Federal is by far one of my favorite credit unions. Here's a pro tip. They do not use Transunion on the business side. So they are known to pull from Experian on the business side for their business credit cards. And on the personal side, they primarily are using Transunion. But like I said, I've seen them sprinkle in a little Equifax, a little Experian here and there. Simple fix. Freeze your other reports. And also make sure that your personal information on your credit report matches the personal information that you used for your membership application. You can call them up right over the phone, do everything over the phone with them. You don't have to go to a branch. It's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Comment the word guide. I'll send you the guide with all of this information. Next up, we have the oh so famous Apple credit card. Apple, yes, just like our phones, Apple is underwritten by Goldman Sachs. So the Apple card is a metal card that is a very cool card. And one of the kind of cool things about this whole Apple card is the fact that you can actually apply and get this card approved without a hard pull. So basically what you do is you go through the pre-approval process, right? Again, you're going to keep your Experian and Equifax reports locked. You're going to keep your TransUnion report unlocked for the initial pre-approval, right? Because oftentimes they're going to do what's called a soft pull just to kind of see if you're pre-approved. And in Apple's case, they're going to give you like, hey, you've been pre-approved for, 10,000 or 20,000. I do recommend that you add a higher limit comparable credit trade line to your credit profile, aka a trade line with a higher limit. So you're going to need like a credit card, like an authorized user, which of course I have, and we have a lot of high limit ones with the decent history, or we have minimal history, they're affordable, and they report for 3 months. But you got to have some sort of high limit comparable credit so that way they can approve you for high limits. Because what happens is if you just have a bunch of $500 credit cards and then you go and apply for the Apple card or any card per se, chances are they're probably going to approve you for what you have as comparable credit on your profile. They might give you 1,000, they might give you 1,500 to be generous, but they use what's called comparable credit, right? You're up against a computer system, and oftentimes the computer system isn't going to read into is it an authorized user or not, okay? They're looking at the limits that you've been trusted with on your credit profile. So if you've got a couple high limits and then you've got a couple lower limits, it kind of shows progression. So they're probably going to give you somewhere in between, or they might even kind of meet that higher tier number for you. And the great thing with Apple is you can request credit limit increases with them. Oftentimes, honestly, every time I've asked for a credit limit increase with them, they've denied me, but they automatically give it to me because I spend and I pay. I spend and I pay. And I was just kind of doing it so I can go through the process myself. But with Apple, it's kind of like through a text message, you just ask them. But honestly, if you spend, pay, you're using the funds that they give you and then you're paying it back, you will automatically get credit limit increases. And I think my limit now is like 20K or better. But I started off with, I want to say, like 15,000 with them, but it was a decent amount. So it was very fair. And then, you can go through with the, no hard inquiry. So once you get your pre-approved offer on the screen, like, hey, you've been pre-approved, you want to kind of do this fast. So you want to have your phone and your computer work simultaneously. And while you're on your computer doing this, right, always do your credit applications on your computer, right? And I like to do it late at night just because you're definitely up against their computer system. You just have to make sure that, again, your personal information on your credit report matches the personal information that you put on your application. Your household income looks good. It's nice and fluffy. And then, of course, once you get that pre-approved offer on your phone, you just lock your TransUnion. They already did a soft pull, so they already kind of have an idea of what your credit is. And then once you go to accept the offer, that's when the hard pull is performed. But if you have your credit reports locked, they can't perform a hard pull. So that's how you can get the Apple card without a hard pull. Okay. Now, I have had some people say it worked for them. Others say it didn't. Nothing is ever going to be foolproof out there when it comes to credit, but it's certainly worth a try if you are trying to avoid getting a credit inquiry on your credit report. Now, if you're like me, I could care less if I get a credit inquiry on my credit because generally credit inquiries are not going to ding your credit more than like 3 to 10 points maybe. And if you have my credit inquiry removal guide, you know exactly how to remove hard inquiries. So you can easily get that hard inquiry removed before the account even hits your credit profile, like it never existed. So either way, but those are ways that you can, apply for it and then, stop once you get the pre-approved offer, lock TransUnion, accept the offer, and then it can't perform a hard pull. And generally, like I said, they give pretty decent limits. Now, the great thing thing about Goldman Sachs, which is the underwriter of the Apple Card, is they underwrite the Goldman Sachs also underwrites the GM Financial Card, which also pulls TransUnion, because guess what? Goldman Sachs pulls TransUnion. So the GM Financial Card, you can kind of piggyback off of that, and they usually give comparable limits as well. They gave me 8,000 with GM to start off with, but they never gave me a credit limit increase. And when I asked, they said no, because I don't use the credit that they already have given me. I rarely use this card. I kind of just have it as another, trade line or, credit card on my credit profile. Now, I will say this about the Apple Card and the GM Financial Card. You can add an authorized user to them. However, I have not seen that the authorized users for the GM Financial Card, GM card, or the Apple Card actually report to the credit bureau. So I kind of tested that out a little bit, and they do not. So if someone tries to sell you an authorized user slot on the Apple Card or on the GM card, it's not going to work, because it's not going to report to the credit. It just doesn't, for whatever reason. So that's the downside about them. But if you want to give your children a card, or some spouse, whomever, they will get a card in the mail with their name on it. And of course, you can allow them to use it at your discretion. But these are two really great cards. Marcus by Goldman Sachs also has the GM Financial Card for the business side. So if you are a business owner, they have it on the business side. However, the business side does not use TransUnion. The business side is actually going to be looking at Equifax. I know, right? Crazy. But again, if you are working on things, hopefully, by the time you are ready to apply for business credit, your Equifax will be clear, free, and good to go for funding. But you can apply for pretty much multiple cards at the same time if you just open up multiple browser windows and hit that submit button all at the same time. Now, next up we have US Bank. A lot of you may be familiar with US Bank, but for those of you that are not, US Bank is a very large regional bank. You do have to be close to a branch in order to open up a bank account with them or to apply for their credit products. But again, there's so many ways, workarounds around that, but US Bank has great personal products and business products. They are going to be using TransUnion, of course, for personal and for business. Now, I like them because not only do they have great credit products that you don't have to have a relationship for, but they also have a secured credit card that does graduate. So if you are in the process of rebuilding your credit, you want to get secured credit cards with grade A banks that are well known, like US Bank, right? I wouldn't waste my secured credit card with like Navy Federal, because if you just wait a little bit longer and play your cards right, you can kind of bypass that secured card because it just takes forever to graduate for whatever reason. But the secured card with US Bank, it will graduate, and then you'll get a check in the mail with your initial deposit. Generally, the secured credit cards with most of these banks and financial institutions or credit unions go up to about a $5,000 limit. But again, you don't have to put $5,000. What I would recommend is doing something comfortable, maybe $500 or $1,000, or if you did want to step the bar up, $5,000. You can definitely do that. But they have every type of credit product that you would need: personal loans and lines of credit. They have debt consolidation options, home repair financing. They have a lot of different options, private seller vehicle loans. Okay, so lots of different options here with US Bank. If you head on over to the US Bank website, you can check out all of their different credit cards here. A lot of them have some really great offers and some new offers for the new 2025 year, but it looks like they have some pretty good options. Again, we want to go after those signature cards. And with US Bank, I would say, you probably would want your credit score at least 700 plus. With most of the banks, US Bank and a lot of these other non-credit union banks, you want to focus on a 700 plus. That's why you can always add a trade line to kind of boost your credit up before you apply. Once that trade line hits, then you can plan out your funding sequence and apply for multiple credit products at the same time, work on getting those inquiries removed, and then rinse and repeat, right? But they have a ton of different options, and they are known for their 0% interest credit cards on the business side. And in fact, many funding companies actually use their business credit cards on the business side and provide people with 0% interest funding. That's how they say, hey, if you want 0% interest funding on the business side, we can help you. Well, all that they're doing is applying to places like US Bank that have welcome offers that would allow someone to have a credit card, a business credit card at 0% interest for the first, 18 months or so, which is their business platinum card. Platinum cards are also great. And again, you can see here, get a low intro APR for 18 billing cycles. So right now they have a welcome offer, and this is usually, ongoing with them, and they have 0% interest for 18 months on the business credit cards. So if you're not ready for business credit cards, again, you can start with the personal credit cards and, go from there, but they have really good options for both business and personal. Now you'll notice they have corporate and commercial here. So there's a difference between small business and corporate. Most people are going to be small business, which all credit cards for small businesses, meaning if you are under like 2 million in revenue, you're considered a small business, right? So most, if not all, small business owners are going to need to have a personal guarantor for business credit cards. It's primarily based off your personal credit. So a lot of times when we talk about the way that your business is set up, as far as like the email, website, online presence, a lot of that can kind of be overlooked in some cases when it comes to business credit cards, because business credit cards are approved primarily based on the personal credit, the business information, of course, what information you put on your application. And a lot of times there is no documents required. It's just stated income, stated information based on what's on the application. And as long as they can verify your business online, they can verify that you have some sort of online presence that can be listed with like Google, Yelp. You don't need a fancy website, but just some sort of online presence. And of course, that'll kind of get you through until you have enough of your, business set up properly. I do have an ebook talking about the steps to optimize your funding. That is also inside of the credit community and inside of the credit kit. So I'm giving that to you guys for absolutely free. Okay. Free 99. Comment the word kit and I will send you access to my credit kit, which has all of this information in it. You can see here, I have the business credit folder, so many different ebooks. I have the credit repair folder, so many different products to help you guys, credit stacking folder, and there is some stuff that's actually like inside of the main folder. And one of those is the amazing stuff. I'll tell you that. But one of the is the 6 rules for funding. So this is the funding blueprint. This is basically your go-to guide on how you can maximize your funding when it comes to applying for business funding. Okay. But back to US Bank, they are amazing. I have worked with a ton of people and I've helped them get funding. If you need help, if you're not sure what to do next, you can always book a call and I can give you, a breakdown and a roadmap and a plan on what you need to do moving forward. Okay. Or you can join the credit community because we talk about this and so much more. You can ask questions during our live calls and get involved. So that way there's no guessing. All right. Now, the thing that I love about US Bank is they actually kind of like basically own Elon Financial in a sense, okay? And in part 2 of this video, we're going to start diving into Elon Financial, who they are, how they are so powerful, and what you need to know about Elon Financial, because Elon Financial is also a TransUnion approved credit product, okay? And the great thing about Elon is they work with a ton of different banks and financial institutions. And in fact, in the side of the credit kit, I have a breakdown of some Elon Financial tips that you definitely need to read on, because I'm going to tell you, this information is a total game changer. And if I would have found this information free to me when I first started, it would have saved me probably like $10,000. I kid you not, right? I spent so much money learning this information, and to find one person that can provide it all to you is just, I would say, a game changer. And plus, there's no obligation to this. I'm going to give you the credit kit at free for you to learn and then earn. Okay, my friends? So we're going to wrap up part 1. I want to thank you for watching this video so much. There's going to be 3 parts to this video. If you have not by now, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, join the credit community, get the free credit kit, and I will see you next time. Bye.